Today, President Trump announced the expulsion of dozens of Russian intelligence officers from the United States, along with the closure of its consulate in Seattle, Washington. This is the largest expulsion of Russian intelligence officers in United States history. The United States takes this action in conjunction with our NATO allies and partners around the world in response to a military-grade chemical weapon attack on the soil of the United Kingdom by Russia, and yet the latest in a pattern of destabilizing activities around the world.
So, more than a year and a half ago, when Omar Mateen went in and shot up that Pulse nightclub and killed, what was it, 50-something people in Florida, the media came out and demonized anybody that said that there was reports of a stand down or there had been warnings. But I remember then it came out that he'd been an FBI informant. Now the feds are saying the father was the full informant and the son was only involved with the FBI being looked at as an informant. The point is we've been proven right yet again. And they hope nobody looks at that, just like they don't want anybody looking at Seth Rich and the chief investigator who used to work for the family, just got shot in the back twice and run over, lived. The cops caught the guy, and he was a Marine, 40-something years old, assigned to Special Security Unit of the Department of Energy. And that's exactly how it works in the military. People graduate if they're general enlisted and not a commissioned officer into other agencies. And you've got these guys embedded everywhere, from the Marines, the Army, you name it. And they go do little special jobs. So it's the exact type of guy you'd expect from a cutout group to go do assassinations. It's exactly who does it. And then he's shot in the back, and no, it's no big deal. We've got Mike Cernovich coming on. He loves taking calls. I want to take your calls on the march, what we do, how we take action, and on the whole Russia situation that I'm going to get more into as well. I don't get into the Russia thing when they call me a Russian or they call Roger Stone. Everybody's tone deaf to that. Everybody's sick of it. They know it's not true. But when they launch big sanctions on Russia or kick their diplomats out with no proof and escalate new Cold Wars, and Trump starts giving into all this, it's a bad thing, especially when the communist Chinese have infiltrated us thousands and thousands of times, the Russians. I mean, if the Russians were in our business, I've never been to Russia. I'm not on Russian payroll. I don't give a flying you-know-what. If they were still communist. But no, it's all a canard by the globalists that are the outside globalists, so they need some outside power to point at so that we don't see that they're the outside power. And we have the U.S. ambassador here saying the people we're expelling are intelligence operatives or intelligence agencies. No, they're not. They're diplomats. Are some of them probably double agents or probably in that capacity? Yes. But they're just getting rid of the diplomatic corps, which is never a good idea. They don't want communication between us and Russia. When you start expelling diplomats, that's the first move towards war, then sanctions, then blockades, then taking part of Ukraine, overthrowing the government. That's what George Soros is doing. We face the same enemy. Here it is.
Today, President Trump announced the expulsion of dozens of Russian intelligence officers from the United States, along with the closure of its consulate in Seattle, Washington. This is the largest expulsion of Russian intelligence officers in United States history. The United States takes this action in conjunction with our NATO allies and partners around the world in response to a military-grade chemical weapon attack on the soil of the United Kingdom by Russia, and yet the latest in a pattern of destabilizing activities around the world. Today's actions make the United States a safer place by limiting the ability of Russia to spy on Americans and conduct covert activities that threaten America's national security. With these actions, the United States, along with its allies and partners, make clear to Russia that its actions have consequences.
No, that's enough of that. That's enough of that. That's John Huntsman, whose daughter famously on Piers Morgan the night after I was on there in 2013 called for me to be shot. She said, Alex Jones needs to be shot and killed. And she went on to say, Piers, you could wear a uniform while you did it. And she fetishizes it. So that just is a little side tidbit about who these people are and what they stand for. Now, let me get the number out here. The toll-free number for you to join us is 877-789-2539, 877-789-2539, or 877-789-ALEX. First-time callers, please have a good, strong phone. That's all I ask. And have your points ready on the Russia situation. Whether you agree with me, disagree, I want to hear it. We don't screen your calls. Just have a point, have a clear phone. You're on the air. And what do you think about this giant assault on the Second Amendment, where they now are like, yeah, we're going to take your guns. Yeah, we're going to kill you if you don't turn them in. Yeah, we're coming for you. They mean business. What are we going to do about this? And thanks to Trump, the Republicans have raised more money than the Democrats, but those big PACs are sitting on it. They should be financing big marches. They should be getting people galvanized. They should be striking back. But most of them are like Huntsman, these neocon liberals who are not really conservatives, and that's our problem. And it's that same Republican blue blood operation that passed that giant pork barrel omnibus bill, wrapping the defense spending in giant buckets of pork. And Trump, I saw one editorial that had like the Kobayashi Maru Wrath of Khan scenario, where if he killed it, it would make the economy go down. They would just pass it back again later. Or he could just put the pressure on them and say, it's their fault. I don't agree with it, but I'm going to sign it. Everybody's still so upset about that because you can grandstand, and Twitter and Facebook will let you spread your articles and videos if you attack Trump. I'm not saying that people that attack Trump are wrong. I'm not saying they're morally and not allowed to say that because I've got problems. But when people get hysterical about what Trump did, get as hysterical about Congress that actually passed it. And realize the day before he put big tariffs on China. That's what's really screwing us over, and the tax cuts and the reform and the trillions and trillions in the stock market and the hundreds of billions coming in for new jobs, the 2 million new jobs, on and on and on. Trump overall is a godsend. That's why they're trying to remove him. But if his constituents fall asleep, if we go to bed, if we stop supporting, if we stop keeping his feet to the fire, he will move to the center. That's the way politics works. And ladies and gentlemen, the Democrats will win the House coming up this year, and the impeachment proceedings will start. So remember, we're not staring down the barrel of Hillary Clinton right now. But let me tell you, we have stirred up these criminals. They thought they had the country on its knees. They thought they were invincible. They thought they were unstoppable. And now they are moving against us big time. So they see the NRA and InfoWars and the free press is their biggest enemy. They hate the Drudge Report. They hate the NRA. They hate InfoWars because they know we've never compromised. And they want to intimidate the NRA into bowing. But thanks to Gun Owners of America and all of you out there, keep them honest, we have the gun culture growing. We have the culture of self-reliance growing in the face of the domesticated masses, and a growing remnant of people are spreading the word, and that's why the globalists are now going to throw everything to the wind, caution to the wind, and they are going to go all out against us to bring in total tyranny. And that's why on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on your own websites, your own platforms, you've got to get political as a way of stopping total physical civil war and economic collapse. If people don't get motivated, if they don't get active, if they don't get involved, the globalist plan to bring us into a depression, to break our will succeed. This is a maximum red alert. Now, I've got the big Russian news. I've got more of the gun-grabbing clips. I haven't even scratched the surface on a bunch of other information here, but we're fighting for our basic rights. We're seeing this giant, organized, globalist criminal syndicate move against the people while the communist Chinese are given the keys to Apple, the keys to Google, the keys to the satellites, the keys to all the emergency phones. That is in the news today. That's coming up next hour as well. Jason, Tim, Alyssa, Jeremy, your calls as well. Mike Cernovich, you name it. Briefly, we hardly ever do this. 50% off our best-selling product, Brain Force. So many of you love it. If you haven't tried it, at $19.95, it is very close to a loss leader. Leading nootropics that are similar formulas are $60, $70 as they mark them up 5 to 7 times. We don't do that. It normally is marked up 150%. Right now, it's only marked up not even quite 50%. It's like 40%. So we're barely making any money on this, but I want you to see how great it is. And the Real Red Pill's been sold out. It's back in stock. It's got a 7-day challenge. You got to take it for 7 days till it builds up in you, and then everything else works better. Find out about the Real Red Pill. It's 50% off. Never been a better chance to try Brain Force. You've heard all about it. Read the reviews. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, or 888-253-3139. And you stand against the globalists. You're the reason we're here. You see them all freaking out about us everywhere, playing clips of me at their gun-grabbing Soros march, their anti-America march. It's because they know we're awake and they know what's going on. Back in 2 minutes, we're going right to your phone calls. And again, if you're listening to local radio stations, tell everybody about it. That's how we get around the censors, is you. You are the solution.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
Mr. Armstrong, you'd mentioned in your answer to, I think, Ms. Spears' question, that there are other RTs operating in the U.S. Can you describe them, list them?
Sure, thank you. So you have RT, you have Sputnik, you have Ruppli, and then I think you have them feeding other entities. InfoWars comes to mind, where those are echo chambers.
Dr. Comey, are you aware that Roger Stone played a role in the Trump campaign?
I'm not going to talk about any particular person here today, Mr. Schiff.
This bizarre circular thing happening where the president cites a theory that he was wiretapped, which developed on the kind of fringe right-wing media. And then after his tweet storm, InfoWars then started saying, well, look, it was the New York Times that reported it, citing our story, misreading our story. And now, a few weeks later, the White House and the president are citing InfoWars.
Are you aware that Mr. Stone also stated publicly that he was in direct communication with Julian Assange and WikiLeaks?
Same answer.
We're going to start shutting Alex Jones and others down, and we're going to sue them, and we're going to have the Justice Department come after them. And get this, folks, if they can shut us down, you're next.
You know, I think it's really important as we sit here that we explain this to the American people in a way that they can understand it.
We are at war with Russia.
So would you say that Russia engaged in hybrid warfare in its effort to undermine our democratic process and engage in our electoral process? Director Comey?
They engaged in a multifaceted campaign of active measures to undermine our democracy and hurt one of the candidates and hope to help one of the other candidates.
I actually think that their engagement was an act of war.
You said we were attacked by Russia. That's not a small thing.
Yes.
An attack doesn't just invite a counterattack, it demands one, else you reveal your fundamental weakness and get attacked again.
Never in the history of our elections has a country attacked us the way that Russia has.
I think before government officials change our foreign policy and declare war against a sovereign country, as you all are attempting to do, we, citizens, have a right to know on what basis you're doing that.
If there is objection, and I note the senator from Kentucky on the floor, I will say before I read this, if there is objection, you are achieving the objectives of Vladimir Putin. You're achieving the objectives of trying to dismember this small country that has already been the subject of attempted coup. If they object, they are now carrying out the desires and ambitions of Vladimir Putin, and I do not say that lightly.
Senator from Kentucky.
I object.
Objection is heard.
The senator from Kentucky is now working for Vladimir Putin.
You're carrying water for the Kremlin.
I'm not carrying water for the... You're a sitting member of Congress on the Intel Committee, and you can't say they hacked...
You're gonna have to move your show to RT Russian television, because...
You know what?
That's just so
beneath your office, because it's so dumb and you're being duplicitous. I'm asking you, did they hack Podesta's emails? And you can't say it.
Personal insults like that, Tucker.
You just said I was carrying... You said I was carrying water for Putin.
Russian scum!
Our battleships weren't sunk and our towers didn't collapse a la 2011. But make no mistake, 2016 is a year that we should mark on our calendars. And it's still going on. The attack didn't end on Election Day.
Donald John Trump, a man who, to borrow a phrase from another December long ago, will live in infamy.
If we discover that Donald Trump or his advocates played a role in helping to devise strategy, if they're the ones who came up with crooked Hillary, if they're the ones who came up with she's ill, something's wrong with her energy, and the way that he basically, described her in the campaign, I think that is something that would put the question squarely on the table whether or not he should be impeached.
Talk show host is Alex Jones. He's a conspiracy theorist.
Radio talk show host Alex Jones.
Alex Jones.
Jones is the wildly popular conspiracy theorist.
Radio talk show host and conspiracy theorist Alex Jones.
Deeply, I think, racist.
I just got called racist by MSNBC.
I don't want that man to have a gun.
1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms.
The Alex Jones Show. Watch the free stream live at Infowars.com/show.
Infowars Life is bringing you a breakthrough in modern medicine. Introducing Pollen Block. We have found an extraordinary new, natural way to alleviate seasonal distress symptoms, including promoting clear nasal and sinus passageways, eye comfort, and respiratory function. In the 1960s, researchers in France noticed that people who ate certain quail eggs experienced less seasonal immune and inflammatory responses. They began studying this effect in published trials, and decades later, we now have the fruit of this research, a fast-acting, chewable tablet that helps alleviate seasonal distress symptoms. Pollen Block is natural and effective. It is not an antihistamine. In fact, current research has found that it actually acts by blocking the activity of tryptase, which is an enzyme that amplifies immune and inflammatory responses in the body. Go outside and enjoy the air you breathe. Head to InfoWarsLife.com and grab a pack of our Pollen Block chewable tablets.